Hello one and all, and welcome back to another episode of the Wellsy Weekly Podcast, the show where I talk about anything and everything. My name is John, aka Wellsy, and you are listening to episode 37 of this very special podcast. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. How you been? I'm doing alright, given the whole, lockdown situation, and I have had a bit of a break, tried to do some updates and, bring some new things to the show and to the whole channel in general. But unfortunately I got a little bit delayed because the world's gone basically mad. How are you all doing? How are you all coping? Let me know down below in the comments. I hope everybody's doing alright at the time of this recording. But like I said, we've had a bit of a break and the world has gone mad since I've been gone. And now I am stuck in isolation, as a lot of you are as well. It's kind of like we're all a bunch of hermits, really. And I suppose if you're an introvert or if you're on the lower end of that spectrum, you're having a blast, basically. You get to do whatever you want to do normally. Just sit in your room, eating ice cream, playing video games. I don't know if that's what you do, but if you do, can I join you as well? Because I really want to. That sounds quite fun, actually. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. So, this whole staying indoors and not going out very often is kind of driving me a little bit insane. And that got me thinking about just like how the brain works in these kinds of stressful situations. And I stumbled across a question that I saw a few weeks ago, and it's popped into my head again. And that is, can people be a good eyewitness? Now, people only remember what they want to remember, as far as I'm aware. Otherwise, you'd remember every little detail about everything that happened in your life. That's what I want to talk about today. Can you be a good eyewitness? I'm going to go through a little bit of the, the science behind it, and hopefully put my spin and interpretation on it as well. My question for you is, do you think you'd be a good eyewitness? If you want to share your thoughts and opinions, let me know down below in the comments of this video. Also, if you could give this video a thumbs up, a like, or whatever it is on whatever social media you've seen this on, just give it a like, a thumbs up, a heart, whatever it is, it'd be much appreciated. So, let's get started, shall we? So, how did this question come about? Well, to be honest, I got a little bit bored, a few weeks ago. I started looking online for random questions and all that, as you do. And this question stood out to me because I'm really curious how the brain works and why people think or do certain things. It's like, why are murderers actually wanting to murder people? Not always that kind of stuff, but that kind of thinking of like, why would somebody do a certain action? So let's picture a scenario where somebody is being robbed and somebody else is watching this all happen. And they've physically seen it, like they've actually been there and they've witnessed it. But how reliable is a witness, or how reliable are your eyes? Because your eyes can trick you all the time, You could see a shadow in the corner of your eye, you could see something moving, you think something's there, but it's not really. It's just your mind playing tricks on you. And I reckon in that stressful situation, that stressful environment, I think that the brain could tamper with your memory slightly, or you could remember certain things, but not exactly every single little detail. I also did a little bit of research. There is an increase in adrenaline and cortisol in a stressful environment. So these can also affect brain chemicals and all that kind of reaction stuff inside your brain. Now, another thing that I found out is that in a stressful environment, when people are, witnessing a crime, people's breath increases, or the amount of breathing increases. And that's just like a natural thing, to increase the amount of oxygen going to muscles, and it's a natural self-defense. It's kind of like the fight or flight thing. Do you know how people always seem to be able to be a bit stronger if they're being attacked or anything like that? That's usually the reason why. And all these factors have a way of tampering with our memories, so we don't remember everything perfectly. Another way that you could be unreliable as an eyewitness is your skills of perception. So them skills in how well you can actually see the details, very quickly and remember them or recall them. Personally, I did a little bit of own research, so I did a couple of tests online, just to see how well I could actually see something happening in a video and stuff like that. And it turns out my skills of perception are very bad because I failed about 3 different tests, which I'm not too happy about. And I failed them because I created a false memory. Now, false memories are when you remember events but not as the way they played out. For instance, you remember a different scenario or remember something that didn't happen at all. It's like misinformation is interpreted by the person watching or listening. Like Chinese whispers for your ears, basically. Only instead of, somebody saying one thing at the end and then recalling something different at the end of the line, your eyes are seeing one thing, but you're recalling something different when you speak as a witness. And existing knowledge also makes you assume things that aren't completely true. An example of this is when I did one of these tests. Basically what happened is I was listening to a bunch of words, a list of words being read out, all related to sleep and stuff like that. And then at the end of the test they asked me to list as many words as I could remember. One of the words I remembered was the word sleep, but it wasn't actually on the list at all. Instead, my brain associated all the other words and just assumed that sleep would be in there because it's the most common word. And I also remember doing another test. It was a really old test. I did this years ago when I was like younger. It was like start of high school, I think it was. And it was a test in which we had to focus on basketball players and focus how many times a basketball was passed between players. But we haven't really got the answer right, but nobody noticed the fact that there was a man dressed as a bear who walked past all the players. And it's quite interesting to see how we don't pick up every little detail, especially if we're focusing on one direct thing. So going back to the example of a crime, if you're seeing somebody get robbed, you're not exactly going to see the details of maybe the getaway car or maybe, the person's face or anything like that. It's weird how you can see so much, but instead focus on just little fragments of stuff. And in stressful situations, that field of perception is probably even smaller. So my question is, why do people still use eyewitness reports? Well, despite all the information I've just given you about false memories, stressful environments, adrenaline, cortisol affecting the brain memories and all that kind of stuff, evidence shows that eyewitness evidence can actually be really reliable if collected in the right way. I read this article on this website called scientificamerican.com. I don't know how reliable it is, but that's where I got it from. And it was talking about how DNA evidence can be unreliable if it's not completed the right way. And then it compared it to eyewitness reports. So if you don't collect DNA samples the right way, it can be tampered with, it can be, manipulated. So say if there's you're trying to find fingerprints and somebody just smudges their thumb on it, well then it becomes unreliable. The same thing applies to people and eyewitnesses. So the best memory is the initial memory, obviously. So you want to question somebody as fast as possible after the crime has happened. However, that's not always the case, and there's going to be factors that, stop that from happening. The response time of police, people in shock and needing to calm down before they can question anything. But despite all these, things and factors that, make these eyewitnesses unreliable, tests were done, and when the eyewitness evidence was controlled in the right way, there was a 97% success rate of identifying, culprits of their crimes, basically. So there you go, there's two sides to this question of being a good eyewitness. On one hand, there's lots and lots of factors that make you remember reality slightly differently to how it actually happened. But on the other hand, the eyewitnesses and eyewitness evidence has been controlled properly, like any other piece of evidence, such as DNA. It can be very, very reliable. Personally, I think they are less reliable than a lot of other types of evidence, purely because it can be easily manipulated and altered without anybody actually knowing about it. But what do you all think? I'll remind you that the question for today is, would you be a good eyewitness? If you think you would, let me know down below in this video. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I hope you have enjoyed what I've said. And until next time, enjoy a cuppa.